Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ino Mondizio, the Director of the Board of Health, and this is the June 1st Board of Health official meeting. And we have in attendance Dr. Brophy, Chairperson of the Board of Health, and Mr. George Fisk. And we have a few attendees with us this evening. So with this, I will turn to Dr. Brophy.
So I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Health for June 1st to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the May 4th meeting. Mr. Fisk, any edits or changes? And
nope, just like to make a motion to accept them as read.
Okay, so all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Second item on the agenda is a reintroduction to the Board of Health. So for Inspector Doucette and a follow-up about the issues related to the management of some violations at the Family Dollar stores on Center Street and North Montello Street. So Inspector Doucette.
Good afternoon, man. Yes, this item, it refers to an enforcement action that stems all the way back to last year, 2022. That reports came to us about exterior conditions at 2 Family Dollar locations. I have worked with the management to improve exterior conditions. However, there are dumpsters at each location, 880 North Montello Street and 725 Center Street, that the health department ordered to be enclosed. They have not been enclosed. We have tried extensive communication with the district manager via email, telephone, seeking her presence in person, none of which have been rejoined with any feedback. I've issued several monetary citations in this matter, and a reinspection of the properties as late as yesterday, the 31st of May, revealed that the dumpsters are not enclosed.
All right. So at this point, well, it moves to legal. So you've given the monetary fines. They're still not in compliance and still have no plans, as far as you know, for this to take place. Because we had even been, we had given them, because of construction issues being an issue, that as long as they had plans in place and had put in plans, but they've never gotten back to you with any plans or anything related to enclosing of the dumpsters. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Chair. We had sought feedback, engineering plans, or quotes from a contractor. We have not received those or any other feedback or communication in regards to enclosing the dumpsters. Okay. The normal protocol that an enforcement action would follow at this point is to refer it to the city law department.
Okay, all right. So we've been very generous with allowing some time for them to get back to us. And I think at this point, Mr. Fisk, I'd like to make a motion that we move this to the city law department at this point.
I agree. We certainly been over backwards and gave them plenty of time, months to correct the situation and not even getting back to us at all.
Yeah.
If there's a problem, I mean, that's we've done all we can do. So I second the motion.
Motion is made. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Inspector Doucette, I believe this is all the items on the agenda for you, or are there other?
There is another item in regards to a construction project that seeks a variance for the location of their dumpster on their property.
Okay.
Now, would you happen to know, there is one person in the waiting room, but the person is joining, it says Zoom user, that's all it says.
I did speak to Kerry Jordan. I'm sorry, pardon me. That person, Kerry Jordan, is attempting to call me by telephone right now. May I accept
so
her?
Why don't we hold this item then, let you speak with her, and we'll move on to the next item, and then.
Very well. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next item on the agenda is Attorney Philip Nazarella, who has solicited a hearing with the board regarding tobacco permits for 2 clients. Mr. Nazarella?
Yes.
Attorney Nazarella?
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. And to Dr. Brophy, Dr. Andrade, and Mr. Fisk, I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you. Some of this is ground that's been covered before by me. Some of it is ground covered by other attorneys. And the nub of it is to request the board to issue tobacco licenses to entities that have had them for dozens of years, dating back to God knows when. And I am, if asked, why am I bringing this up when it had been brought up at another time by other legal counsel whose points are well taken, but I'm going to be asking the board to look at this through a different prism, a different set of lenses, and hopefully when it does that, they will be in somewhat of agreement what I am asking to do. What I am not going to do, Drs. Brophy and Mr. Fisk, is to get into the argument of the pure legal, whether or not Chapter 111, when it says boards of health can make reasonable regulations, whether or not they are in fact reasonable to terminate licenses and basically terminate businesses. That's not going to be on the plate today. I'm going to be presenting my my suggestions and argument based on equity, based on fairness, based on common sense taken to its highest level, which, you know, on the library entrance to the Harvard Library, it says law is common sense taken to the highest level. And I also say this with a great abiding respect for the concern about cigarette smoking. I am not a smoker, and I respect the noble actions the city has taken. However, what has resulted in, let's say, Belmont Street South, LLC, a company that has been in business, this business, since 1938 when Christie's first opened up. So we are talking well over 80 years. And during the course of this businesses, they've had other similar like-kind businesses operating there, whether it be a 7-Eleven, things of that nature, Tedeschi's. In this particular location, which is listed as 716 Belmont Street. However, in reality, it's really 662 Belmont Street, which again chimes into some of the issues that we have here. This building, and we're all familiar with it, it's right on the fork on Belmont Street across from the fire department. It is designed, built, and functions only as a convenience store. It can't be turned into residential. It can't be turned into offices. And the last thing we are resisting and don't want to do, and I only throw it out not like we're thinking about it, is to consider the sober homes. We have enough of them in Brockton. We are Brocktonians. We're concerned with the quality of life and the appearances of the city. What Brockton, in its actions through the promulgation of the codes or the regulations in 2016 has done was basically terminated licenses, and it's decreasing them, trying to apparently get to a net zero sum on what we have for tobacco licenses. I'm suggesting that no business of a convenience store can exist without a tobacco license. No one, in our most naive expectation, could consider that one will go into a convenience store for milk and eggs or get gas out front and go get his cigarettes elsewhere. It won't happen. And because Brockton is broken up in sections where some retail businesses, at least well over 100, have tobacco license, no one new is going to revive a store or take over or continue a business without that type of license because they can't compete. It's like a person, it's a person lacking his arms and legs to try to stay in the same commercial race everyone else is. My sentiments are shared by members of the city council, members of the administration, and I only say that because I'm not a lone eagle out there And I don't say it to say to the board, well, maybe they're right and you're wrong. No, I'm just stating that the commercial vitality is of essential nature in this city, and not at the expense of health. Health in whether people have artificially colored cereals and donuts and overly sugar-infused foods, that's a choice they make, because where we are with this course of action creates a slippery slope for everything else that would come after this. The legal issue, that's basically the outline. The legal issue that is of concern here is that Christie's had been in, 7-Eleven had been operating after Christie's since 1987. And the city moratorium came into effect. There was legal notices, presumably, that were sent out but never received by the lessor landowner, who has a property right in this license and has agreements or had agreements with the lessee that if they were to leave, they would take over, petition the city, and go on from there. Because of the mix-up in the addresses, which the landowner doesn't choose their address, it's the city that chooses the address. Presumably, mail was going to 712 Belmont Street. It never hit 662 Belmont Street. So all of this time, the applicant, the landowner, has been without correspondence, without notice as to this action taken by the city. That, coupled with the whole general tenor of the need to not put people out of business, that what would seem like an innocuous rule or regulation that we're going to decrease tobacco, for these people who are already in business, who already have brick and mortar buildings that are designed specifically for that, it becomes a draconian rule, one with such harsh consequences that my clients are seeking not only abatements, but alternative issues as to what to do with their property, because it's, you know, if you are designed for that convenience store business, you need to be able to have convenience items in the business. So I am appealing to the board, not only in the idea of equity, the idea of common sense. I will stretch my arms out as far as saying a Shakespearean sense of quality of mercy for these people who are left because of these rules with nowhere to go and nothing to do. And I know in the past the board has been fair with me, treated me well. We had situations where businesses had closed. There was issues with addresses, and the board, in its wisdom, had granted a license, and they have continued on. It would have wiped out certain businesses, such as what we have at risk now. The commercial sector is as important to the city of Brockton as all other issues, whether they be from the planning, the Board of Health, because if one cog in the wheel is broken, jammed up, or not allowed to function, the whole wheel ultimately won't function. So I am imploring doctors before me and Mr. Fisk that you consider this in light of the broad spectrum of where we are. I don't want to really have to deal with the legal issues, because that's a time-consuming issue. I feel there's a strong merit to it, but I am appealing to the practical wisdom of three intelligent people here as understanding the consequence of this action in putting these companies out of business. This is not a new business coming up, knocking on your door and saying, we want to develop a property and we want to do these different things. These have been here for over 60, 70 years. And I'm asking you to allow them to open up the door and continue on and create and continue with a vibrant economic, commercial sector, which this was all designed to do. I'll be happy to entertain any questions. I don't want to overextend the presentation, but again, due to the lack of notice they received, due to the business they have that are now handcuffed, that nobody will lease this property. That is a substantial factor we can present to the board. We've been trying to lease the properties and have nothing. All they've been doing is paying taxes, and now they're knocking on the city's assessor's door to deal with that. So again, I implore to the board for them to extend the relief needed to my client. I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
So I guess my first question would be, there was a previous license, and that license was owned by or operated by which individual? And because my understanding is the license expired, and that the license had expired, and the way the law is written, out of fairness, because many people have come to the city looking for licenses. And we don't expand license, there's no new licenses being given out. And that when a business closes, and the owner of the license, if a business changes from one owner to the next, with that selling of the business, it can be passed to the next owner. But if a license expires, it cannot be reinstated. And so I'm just wondering at the time frame of who owned the license and at what point the active license was lost.
Well, let me make my first response before I ask Miss Vanessa Gumbert to chime in. The license with many of these commercial relationships between lessor and lessee is that the lessor retains an interest in the license, and that's the agreement between the two parties. So it would revert to a lessor. Otherwise, they're blocked right then and there. They can't ever lease that property again. And the lessor had no knowledge from the city where this stood, and there was the moratorium, the laws were in flux. But I think Ms. Gumbert could respond to some of those questions if she's online.
Yeah, is that Vanessa Gumbert? Maybe she can unmute.
Yes.
There we go. Please proceed.
I'm not sure that I have the exact dates of exactly what you're looking for. What are you asking me for?
Asking for, there was an active license at that site. Someone had an active license at that site.
Correct.
And as far as the Board of Health is aware, that license expired. Do you have the date of when it expired?
I did go down to the Board of Health.
2018?
Yes.
In 2018. So
Okay.
the license has expired, it's almost 5 years ago, right? So probably 5 years ago. So it's an expired license, and the way the law is written, or at least the Board of Health rules are written, is that once a license expires, it is not reinstated. There are no new licenses being given out. So the issue is, we can't give a new license out according to the ordinances and policy and rules that we have right now within the Board of Health.
Well, what we're asking you to do is give back the license that they had, because again, there was a lack of notification to the lessor, which she should have had. And with due respect, I think that the rule is somewhat draconian, knowing that you have this monstrosity of a building there, and to say, whoop, you went by the past goal line, it expired, and you can't get it back again, does not seem equitable to me. And I think there's
my understanding is that the building owner was not the owner of the license, right? The license was not in their name.
the building owner had a property interest in the license that was via the agreement with the lessee. Because when they go into these types of relationships, if the lessee were to, let's say, violate a rule, the lessor has a right to step in their shoes, making the appropriate moves to the boards, rather than losing all their business. So if XYZ convenience store is operating and there's a violation that is of concern to the lessor, they could boot XYZ, bring in ABC to take over and continue on with that. Obviously, they would go through the board, et cetera, showing the change of personnel, just like in a bar room, the change of management. but it wouldn't just float off to nowhere. So what my argument is that the lessor had no knowledge of this. Otherwise, she would have stepped in and kept that license alive. And again, I'm asking the board to look at this in a common sense fashion. We're far below the amount of licenses that rules allow, and we cannot terminate something. You're terminating a business. You're not just terminating cigarettes. You're terminating tobacco. You're terminating a business and making a void a whole building that's there that can never get on its feet again. The equities just don't seem to play out with me.
Well, it's also that there's a rule written, so I think, we'd have to approach legal on our end, because there's been many other businesses that have closed licenses there. I'm sure several other that have been approached and not come forward for licenses. So in fair, where does the city stand in this? Because, on the other side, there may be others who would say that this, they've been notified that they can't apply for licenses and if they're not able to do so with their properties. So.
Well, I understand if they don't come forward, you want to assert their rights. That's their shortcoming. I have 2 clients here who are adamant that they need this. That it's a lifeline to live. If somebody else prefers not to exercise their right to a hearing and stepping forward in a proceeding, that's up to them. Maybe for the varied amount of reasons they decide they don't want to pursue it. Maybe they're due to economic reasons, unsuccess in the business. I don't know. My clients had successive businesses there. They're both extremely experienced and well-respected members of commerce and the business society with immaculate records. All they want to do is get the door open so they can continue the business. Do we want to keep looking at the empty buildings of Brockton? I know that the mayor's office told me they were in support of this. The city council is in support of this. The legislative body is in support of having licenses granted. I haven't spoken to any city councilor that is against this, and it's been explained in detail. Jack Lally called me, Councilor Lally, and told me he was clearly in support of it. And he says, we are in an economic crisis. We don't need the closure of any more entities. So that's why I commenced my presentation saying I am looking for equity and fairness. I can deal with the law. I think there are legal issues here that buttress my argument, but I want to make it on a simple plane, in a common sense plane. I was trying to leave it at that level. If you feel, Doctor, you want to confer with the law department on that, I respect that. I can't say anything about it. But I can't let I cannot let my clients. I can't let my clients sink into the quicksand here and not be able to help them.
I'd like to state my opinion on it. My opinion's well known. Back when we did it 4 or 5 years ago, I was a dissenting person on it. I don't believe it should have been limited. It would be like in my business, well, we can have a funeral home, but we can't have the embalming chemicals because they're hazardous. I mean, everybody needs to, the doctor and the doctor sees it in the hospital. I see it in my business that smoking is definitely no good. I mean, all you can do is tell people, the hazards of it and everything like that. But as a businessman, I can see that definitely, a convenience store, if you don't have the smoking, you might not get the other type of, produce that they might go in. They're going to go down the street to the person that has the tobacco and then get the other thing. So I think it, like I said, I was always against, and I voted that way against limiting that. And that's the way I've always been. And that's the way I feel that we shouldn't limit it. We need all we can do to, get businesses in the city. But as far as from a public health standpoint, I mean, it's out there, all the information on the hazards. And I certainly, as Dr. Brophy sees, we know the hazards. And, but, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's just that sometimes people have to, it's still a free country. And, people should be able to. And I hate to see, somebody that's new coming in that, wants to try to start something, convenience store or something like that, limited and probably with no chance of success because of that particular thing. So those are my views on it anyway.
Right. And, you know, the law was passed as Mr. Fisk pointed out, it was myself and Dr. Andre that voted for it. At a time when we had per populace in the city, far more in places with tobacco licenses. And this also comes under what the capability of the board in regulating these. And we were still at a level where without the support from the Mass Department of Public Health, we cannot regulate the current tobacco license institutes, places selling tobacco within the city. So we're still, you know, at an incredibly high level of where tobacco licenses are. You know, my inclination is to vote against this. And Mr. Fisk is, Dr. Andre is not here. I would like to look back at the way things were written in the law. It clearly said that the license, if the license expired, we cannot. This was done with the help of the Department of Public Health and sort of keeping it in a pathway. It's not to get to zero, it's to get the licenses to expire over time. Certainly the pandemic occurred and there were issues that occurred with the pandemic. But if the license had been maintained during that pandemic and paid for it, there's an existing license, there would be no issue. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, the license had expired. And this would be an issuing of a new license to a new person who never had a license before. And that creates an issue because other people have been denied licenses for that reason. It does create an issue for the city that I think we should, at least in our departments, discuss with the legal.
Yes, but Dr. Brophy, the action of granting the license here would not be unprecedented. Again, we had Savas who had to close down for 2 or 3 months because the employees didn't want to show up. The COVID was enraging at the time. He closed up. He got the notifications to him were misaddressed, and we cleared that up. And the board
that was within 2 months with the license going back to the previous owner. Okay, rehiring staff that were already there. And during a pandemic where there was issues with mail, which I will give you, he missed a notice and it expired. But within a short period of time, when he went to reopen, he was unable to. And we can make an exception in exceptional rules. This is 5 years out from when that license expired.
No, there's nothing in the law to give the time frame on it either.
And a different person asking for the licenses.
In the same building, in the same business.
It's the same
I
building.
think that has to be considered.
Yeah, but it's the same building, but it's not, it's a different licensee that is coming in. Is the owner going to carry the license? Or is it coming in someone else's name to ask for the license?
The owner's going to carry the license.
The owner is going to carry, but they never had a license before and they let the license expire.
They had an interest in the lease agreement with the license. That it would revert to them, they'd come before the board and take over the license.
So let us review that. And if you can let us review it with legal, and if you can get us the information on the licensing reverting back to them, and what arrangements were made for that, and notifying the board that things need to be sent to the notifying that the board information was to be sent from one owner, that they were handing the license. The license was in somebody's name. And that's, you know, was it handed over to, or was the board notified that the license was a shared license between, and that it was reverting to someone else that had to be notified?
It had the license, and the agreement was a reversionary interest back to the lessor, so that he could, and they do this everywhere so they can survive the business, so it doesn't close down, because a licensee in his name drops dead, everything stops, and the business closes. It doesn't work that way. And it doesn't work in that way in other municipalities. I'm not saying they're right or we're wrong, but it's a far more commercially, it continues the commercial activity rather than putting a cement blockway in front of it. And that's what's happening here. I'll be happy to lay that all out and show it to you.
Okay.
And I would prefer, I would, certainly welcome the opportunity to consult with legal, because I think there are a lot of legal issues here that I would rather have resolved at this level than taking it anywhere else. I think this is the appropriate place to deal with it.
All right. So it sounds like at this point, we'll discuss with legal. You'll get back to us with the information on your end about license owner, the arrangements that were supposed to be made, and how board was supposed to be notified that there was disagreement, that the license had been, or whatever movement needed to take place, that the license, the owner had the building owner had a right to a license at that point.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I may, also, if you want me to go right into the second matter as well, or I don't know if you have any procedure to stop this one, because there's similar
Are
issues.
these two separate owners?
Yes.
Yes, okay, yeah, okay. So are there any further issues with the first one then? I'm sorry, I didn't understand that there were separate owners. I thought it was...
No, there are not. My understanding is it's going to be referred to legal, and then I assume we will reconvene at another meeting.
Yes. Yes.
That sounds fine.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, because I'm having problems with my my computer here. So in case I drop out, you'll know why, but I'm hanging in there.
Okay. Are you losing charge?
Yeah, I'm losing charge. So, but I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging as long as I can.
Okay, all right. So maybe we should get to the second.
All right. I'll talk fast on this one. Dr. Brophy, this one here involves a property that was on East Ashland Street, and it, I think it's mentioned in my earlier correspondence to you. It had been a convenience store for decades and decades, going back to the Curtis family farms in '69, into Curtis leased it to Angelo Supermarkets in '77. 1984 was the Tedeschi's in one of the buildings, and then they expanded, created another building because business was doing well. In 1997, Tedeschi's took over this new building, and my client, Hajar Management, that operates under the East Ashland Street Trust, purchased the property in 2003. And Tedeschi got bought out by 7-Eleven in 2016, and they continued the business of a convenience store, selling everything, the sundry items that Christie's and Cumberland Farms has as a convenience to the public, including tobacco. The 7-Eleven had ceased doing business somewhere in perhaps 2 to 3 years ago in late 2020. And again, they had a reversionary interest because, this particular trust operated by Hajar Management, which is an extremely ambitious and qualified retail manager, secures their lease agreements with reversionary rights into allowing them to step in and continue on rather than, stopping the business. And by the strict interpretation of the city rules, it would be stopping and ceasing a business. So they have been in that entity, in that spite, in that the particular location has been in operation in excess of 40 years. And we've been trying to get back the license that the city will not give us for a period of time, and allowing us to operate, which we cannot operate anything or do anything with unless we have a tobacco license. Even more importantly than perhaps a liquor license, because this just creates the continuity of business and there's more of a demand on it. So there are similar issues, and if it's referred to the law department, I'll be happy to brief it and send a more elaborate outline as to the basis that I feel this should be issued to them, and we would move on from that point.
So it's a similar issue about owner of a building with leasers coming in, having licenses and the no
Yeah.
longer having a license at the site, but the
Yeah.
owner wanting to apply for a license.
I'm sorry, if you could just
Building
repeat that
owner
last.
wanting to apply for a license or saying
To
that they
step back
want.
in the shoes, yes, in their shoes.
Okay,
Both
so
of these applications in front of you are not unsophisticated lessors. This is the way it's done across the board by people who have a valuable property right in an entity and they're leasing out to someone. They don't sit there and hold their breath that I hope everything goes good. If it goes wrong or if there's a closure, they take over and continue on. And in the municipalities I have dealt with, and I don't speak for everyone everywhere, when we go for that type of a transition, it's given because they're not going to let the business die. So I don't think I'm asking for anything out of the ordinary, and I'm just asking for the continuity of what has existed.
and what is
And by the way, has existed without violation in good form and to the satisfaction of all the other municipal entities within the city, whether it be the Board of Health, the Licensing Commission. They don't have any scars that they're ashamed of here. They've operated as good operators, and they are a credit to the city. They bring vitality, they bring income, and they bring convenience to those who use it.
Okay, and again, the date of that expiration of the license for this,
It looks, it might be the 2020 that
2020,
attorney,
okay.
that's what I mentioned.
Okay, fine, okay, great. I think it's a similar situation, so I think we're probably gonna be the same, ruling that we should, refer to legal.
Okay.
Any further discussion or?
No, I appreciate your time and taking this all in, and we'll see you at the next step, I guess.
Okay, yeah,
I just, again, I respect the board's activities, the board's adherence to rules and regulations, but I think we have to look at the broader perspective as to where we are in. By allowing what I am requesting, I don't think we're derogating from anything that the city is trying to do moving forward. So I ask you for your consideration. I look forward to, if I will respond to the city law department if they were to make inquiry of me at any fashion, and we will take it from there.
okay, great.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Sorry
you.
for the difficulty in getting us getting on board. So.
Well, I'm glad we finally made it.
We finally made it, yes. All right.
It's good to see somebody else has a problem beside
I
myself.
know. Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
I will sign off. Thank you.
Okay. All right,
Thank
so
you.
next item on the agenda is moving forward with the life science bio-ready community adoption of NIH guidelines. So I think when we left it last, we had discussed this, and you actually attended some of the meetings, which is nice about this. And we had spoken with a number of groups and with some recommendations about approaching the city about getting a consultant to help us get in place the rules and policies, et cetera, and procedures to move forward with allowing businesses in life sciences to move forward in the city.
Yes, thank you. I have taken steps to attend the forum that they had last month. They had 2 days forum. I attended the first one. The second time coincided with the graduation of my daughter. And so therefore I could not attend, but I did it in the first one. It was very, very eye-opening. And after that, I spoke with Mayor Sullivan regarding using a consultant. He looks into that with favor, and he told me that he would speak with Mr. Rob May, who's the director of the planning. So I'll revisit with him again to see at what point that he is in the consultation with Mr. May. And I think perhaps we will have some information how they wish to move
Yeah, because
forward.
ideally the consultant could help us formulate for what we want within the city, the appropriate rules and for what the Board of Health's responsibilities would be in reviewing not only the licensing or allowing of these businesses to open, but also the monitoring that needs to take place, as well as dealing with the community issues that may be raised about biosafety within the city. So and structures, the recommended sort of guidelines. The NCI gives regulations about. The NIH gives regulations and guidelines for how the industry is to be run, but the monitoring and the licensing falls to the city, as well as the engagement of the community around what level of biosafety will be allowed within the city. With these industries.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Thank
any
you.
particular points from the meeting that struck you as being issues that the city that we haven't talked about in our previous meetings?
Actually, they had few presenters who talk about how they handle these particular situations in their own city. I think there was one consultant who also talked about the way that he has helped the city where he has been a consultant to handle it. So it looks like when I look at it, it seems that they have some precedent. So we probably can use those existing laws or ordinances from other cities to help structure how we want to move forward. So I think we have some
Plans are coming in place.
correct.
Yeah, okay, great. It'd be nice to engage Mr. May again, because I think there's, from the business side, there's plans of how they want to do this. So it'd be good to align both what we're doing in the Board of Health and what Mr. May and the city are talking about, how to structure things so that we put things in place. George, there's been a lot of information about this. Sometimes there's concern in the community as you open these type of businesses. There's a level of what type of recombinant products are being produced at various sites. So there's sort of a sensitivity around it, but also there is the guidelines are there, but there has to be some supervision of how things are being done. We do not want an industry. I mean, we saw what happened up in the Gloucester area there with a biopharmaceutical place that was producing, where there was the explosion. I mean, these are not unsafe. There are potential for safety issues at the site. So we have to assure that the manufacturing site is following appropriate rules and procedures, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
And if I may ask the board maybe to check with Mr. Doucette. and Mr.
Yes, I
Doucette.
forgot. Sorry, Mr. Doucette. We have one other item on your, sorry to keep you so long.
You're on mute.
Correct, I'm on mute.
Okay.
Hello, thank you. Yes, so there is one other item, and I did confer with the representative of the construction corporation, and they tell me that they are in the waiting room, and that they, because they're calling in, they may appear as, I think Mike has said, as Zoom user.
So, okay, very good. We will
Okay.
let them in.
Okay, so I'll let them in right now. Okay, there we go. So whoever is representing the construction company, would you please identify yourself? Would you state your name and then?
Oh, I am certainly trying. Hi.
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you?
So,
Good, thank you. Who do we have the pleasure meeting with today?
Sure. I am Carrie Jordan. I am the representative for 157 Center Street LLC.
yeah, please. So,
Would you state your situation, please, with the dumpster location? And why?
Sure. Sure. Currently, I have the units are, I'm sorry, I'm multitasking at the same time and obviously not doing it very well. So let me restart that over again. The property in Brockton, originally we had to dumpster due to fire public safety. We asked to have a full turn radius for fire trucks, emergency medical. We agreed with this, but in doing that limited the amount of space that we would have to accommodate the dumpster. With that, we did have find that spot, which is in the back corner of the property. And we would like to close it with concrete.
I think we lost.
Yeah, we kind of lost her. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
It was
Inspector,
breaking up too.
There she is. Is that her again?
Oh.
There she is. Okay, we lost you for a bit. Your audio was kind of
you're
breaking.
on mute.
If I may, Kerry, could I recommend to you that you turn your video off so you'll have more bandwidth for your audio?
Yes, please. How do I do that? Did I do it?
I don't, frankly. Okay,
Uh,
I
at
think
the-
you may have done it.
You got it.
Go ahead now.
Okay, so I don't know how much where I got dropped off from. I apologize. But we have is a site that originally we had the dumpster in not need of a variance, but due to the public safety full turn radius for the fire truck that we put in, this eliminated the ability to place the dumpster in the original setting. So with moving that, we would be required to have the variance.
And
Is that
Mr. Doucette, maybe you could explain the situation from the health department side so that we
Yeah.
can.
Yes, certainly, ma'am. Just to affirm what Kerry said and to summarize it, this will be a redevelopment of a property. It is a residential development, is my understanding. The
Okay.
original project plan called for a dumpster location that would be fully in compliance with our ordinances, that would be essentially enclosed and not within 10 feet of any parcel line. However, for fire safety reasons in technical review, the fire department recommended that a traffic circle be installed so that a fire truck in the event of emergency would be able to make a radius.
Okay.
In the implementation of that, it was determined that the dumpster would then, there would be a necessity to place it along the property line. As you may know, there is an aspect of our dumpster ordinance that calls for no dumpster to be within 10 feet of any parcel line. However, but that the ordinance does also have a process by which a property owner may seek a variance for relief from that particular aspect. I have conferred with the deputy chief of the fire department and Dr. Mondesir in regards to this, and it is recommended that the variance be granted with the provision that the dumpster be enclosed with a concrete cinder block enclosure that would inhibit odors from trash of penetrating other properties.
Ms. Jordan, you're understand the variance would be granted with that contingency. Is that correct?
yes, and 100%.
Okay, great. So, George.
I'm sorry. I did
I
did start by saying that. I'm sorry.
That's
I don't know.
okay. You were breaking up a bit, so we didn't get everything. So,
No, it's fine.
just
I
wanted to
apologize.
confirm. I wanted to confirm that.
Yes.
George, I would motion.
I'll just
to-
leave it up to them. I'll leave it,
Yeah.
if he thinks it's fine, you know,
Yep.
I was thinking about going out and looking at it myself if he had decided, but if he decided that, you know, it seems like it's all right to grant it, then, you know, that's what he's there for, and I go by what he says.
Yeah, and it's for fire and safety reasons otherwise.
Sure.
Because the initial plan was in place, so I totally understand. So with the motion made, I vote to approve the variance.
Second,
Second, okay, all in favor, aye.
aye.
We're all set. The variance is granted.
Thank you so much.
You're
No problem.
welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I think there's a few more items. Just an update on the sanitary health inspectors, I believe is the next item on the agenda.
Yes.
Oh, we talked about biosafety. Yes, okay.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
biosafety, yes, I will just circle back with Mayor Sullivan and hear where he is and how he chooses to move forward. And I believe that the conversation will extend to Mr. Rob May at
Okay.
the planning department.
Okay, and then the safety health inspector, sanitary health inspectors.
Yes, so
And some of our, we have some staff moving around with some positions to be hired, so maybe we can go through that.
yes, at this point, we still have 3 positions that need to be filled. It's one is sanitary inspector. That position was created, but has never been filled. And then we have promoted one inspector, code inspector to sanitary inspection, leaving one code inspection or code enforcement vacant. So that's the second one. And then we have the admin position 1 that has been vacant since February. But last week we have interviewed several individuals, several applicants for the position. And presently we are looking to make an offer to one of the interviewees for the position, for the admin 1 position.
It's good.
Great. And then I see that the COVID situation within the city is dramatically improved, which is nice. So numbers are down within the city, and according to the emergency has been lifted, and most people are without masks except in various situations where it's required in healthcare. There are still a few areas in healthcare that require masking, but otherwise things seems to be on the mend here in the city.
Yes, with May 11 that has come and gone, CDC and Department of Public Health have opted to remove the public health emergency authorization. And so some of the protocol of COVID has gone also. As you have already mentioned, mask seems to be quite optional in many places. However, with respect to positive cases, the protocol tend to be the same, where people would be isolated or would isolate themselves and then come out at the end of the time. With respect to vaccination, officially all monovalent vaccines have been removed, and that includes Pfizer and Moderna, leaving us with bivalent only. And so the Board of Health continues to offer vaccines to residents of the city. So the nurses continue to vaccinate at the Shaw Center on Tuesday on reduced hours. Instead of 2 to 7, they do it 2 to 4. And that has to do a little bit with budget issues, because as we approach the end of FY23, we are running low on funding. So I would have to appear before the City Council to request moving funds from one line to a different line. So for this particular one, that would allow money to be placed on the line item for overtime. On Monday, the June 5th, I will be presenting before the council to request that. And so we are on the agenda.
Okay.
With respect to other places, the nurses are currently scheduling vaccines to the high rises. And yesterday they had a clinic at the Caffrey Tower. They have vaccinated 33 people. So that was, a great clinic, because nowadays, if you vaccinate in double digits, that's really excellent. that's where we are with this presently.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And then, health promotion, public health, mental health within the city, a few new items for us.
Yes, we are working diligently to see how we could make great use of some of the COVID staff that we hired. Basically, we are limited, and there is a redefinition on the scope of services by the Department of Public Health. And so we are looking to see how we could retain the former case investigators. And presently, they are undergoing training at the Boston Public Health Commission to become community health workers. That way, we could use them as community health workers to do health promotion and health outreach within the city, and they will be working closely with the nurses. And as for the epidemiologists, I think their time will be, the end time will be June 30th this year, because basically the redefinition by DPH and the disappearance of the pandemic phase of COVID no longer requires that we have those positions.
Any other miscellaneous things that you?
I think that's, well, let me say that we continue to monitor TB in the city. All the nurses have more than one case of TB that they're providing DOT to, or directly observed therapy. And so we work closely with DPH to make sure that we attend to the needs of those cases, because that's the best thing to do, to try to help them to remain in compliance with the protocol, with the modality of medicine. And then, yeah, we continue to work closely with the Brockton Hospital. The date for reopening has been moved, and at this point, I don't think that they see the light close to the end of the tunnel. So I think we're looking at late this year or the beginning of 2024.
Okay.
Yes. Also, we will be going on vacation.
You will be out of the country for.
I'll be out of the country
for a
also.
period of time.
Yeah, so for administrative needs, Emmy will be in charge because she knows the role.
Right.
And for the medical and health aspect, the public health nurse, the lead public health nurse, Lynn Demosthenes, will be in charge of that.
Great. Mr. Fish, do you have any other issues or?
No, I don't know if this comes under the Board of Health, but it's been something that I've been watching. Well, it's definitely with their health in mind. Some of the people that have been asking for money on the sides of the street, the panhandlers. I saw a girl the other day that nearly got killed. It's a very dangerous situation, and it might come. I don't know if it comes under public health, but it's certainly their health. And there's going to be an accident one of these days. They're going to get hit, and it's just, it's not a very good thing coming into the city of Brockton, and having somebody come up in your window and having it. And now from what I saw the other day, my God, it's getting to be a safety hazard too. One of these are going to be hit with a car and killed, and I just wanted to bring something up about that. I don't know how it started anyway, but.
Yeah, the mayor has taken steps to bring together departments that oversee these issues.
Right.
Board of Health has some jurisdiction over that. However, the police seems to be the department that takes larger aim
Right.
at that. And so therefore, several departments are working together to address it and see how to address it. We are looking also at other municipalities, how they handle it. I think in Framingham, they had an issue several months ago. It seemed that it creates some possibility to get to remove those individuals from the street, but it's not a clear cut because there are issues of legal
Right.
rights, and so we're watching closely, and we're doing our due diligence also in the city to see how to best prevent any accident from happening.
I apologize about the phone calls in the back. I can't, I'm just holding this because I know I'm plugged in here to keep the juice flying. I'm sorry.
All right.
But that's, yeah.
So with that, I think, I think we've covered we've covered all of the agenda
Right.
items that were listed. So a motion to adjourn, and we will meet again on, it will be.
That would
It
be
said July 4th. I don't
July
think I want to
4th.
meet on.
Oh
July
my
4th.
goodness.
Oh,
I don't
July,
want to meet.
are we meeting the
So-
week of July 4th? We usually cancel one of the summer.
Okay,
Meetings.
well, that may be one that.
That we may have to, yeah, so we usually, unless there's a pressing item, we'll leave it on the agenda for now, but if there's no action to be taken at that meeting, since it's the 4th of July week, and even people, so many people are on vacation, even folks don't want to come to before the board that week usually.
Yes.
So it would be what, the 4th, it would be the 6th of July would be the next next regularly scheduled meeting,
The 6th, okay.
the 6th. So we'll just leave it, but if there's no items that require action at that time, we'll cancel that meeting and reconvene in August. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Great. All right, so motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right, take care, George.
have a
All
good
right.
4th.
Have
everybody.
a good quarter, everyone. Okay,
Bye
Thank
now.
you so much. It was great having you all.
all right.